Hello everybody. We have another game with the black pieces against Winston David, rated 1762. He opens up with 1e4 and we play d6. He brings his knight out to the center, controlling central squares. We play knight f6, attacking his pawn in the center. He plays knight c3, developing and defending his pawn in the center. We're going to play e5 and stake our claim in the center. He's now going to play d4. We've had this in a similar recent game, and in that game I took the pawn and he recaptured with the knight. It's a possibility again if we want. Let's just go for it again. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Keep things simple. We take his center pawn so he doesn't have two in the center. He takes ours and develops a piece. Fine. What did I do last game? I think that game I probably went bishop e7 and castled. I don't think I brought the knight out there, although I don't really remember. But either way, in this game I'm not going to go bishop e7 and castle. In this game I'm gonna switch things up and I'm gonna go g6. This diagonal is kind of weak, so my bishop would look nice here. The downside of my g6 is that I don't have a pawn here on e7, so my f6 square is kind of weak. So he attacks it, but I'm gonna defend it, and he can apply more pressure with his knight, but it's already defended twice. So I want to castle. Okay, so he moves his queen to f3. What does this threaten? Well, it puts a second attacker on the knight, so it adds a little pressure. So what do we want to do? Let's see. The drawback, I guess, would be that it undefends, the knight, if you could somehow use that. We could just maybe even castle, but that's maybe asking for a little too much trouble. There's this weird move that hits the queen, but I'm not sure why do that right now. Seems a little weird. So I'm not going to do that. If we do castle and he adds a third attacker and we put a third defender, I don't see how he adds pressure. So I'm just going to castle. He adds a third attacker, so it threatens to win our knight. We don't have any way to defend it other than with this move here. And of course I had to make sure he couldn't push and play e5 to add a fourth attacker. So if you think, how does he add a fourth attacker? Well, he has a light square bishop, so that's not going to work. And the rooks aren't going to come near it, anytime soon. So he can't add more pressure. So now he's at a standstill. I got to develop while he made these weird moves, right? And next I can just kick his pieces off of my side of the board, and I don't really see what the point of his stuff was. Also, after I kick his knight, if he retreats, my knight has a beautiful square in the center with a tempo on the misplaced queen. If he castles, his rook will be on d1 in alignment like this. Potential tactics in the air. I also have rook e8 staring at this potentially weak e4 pawn. So what does white do? White doesn't care about castling this way or preparing this way. He plays c4. What is the threat? There's no threat. It supports the knight. The downside is it's quite committal. He never has c3, so now these dark squares are kind of weak. The diagonal's weak, and I can go in here now because if I take his queen, it comes with a check. So if I go here and he moves his queen, I don't know, here, he still has three attackers on my knight. Alright, fine. I'll just kick his knight first, because then that solves any potential tactical issues because his knight won't be here. So he might trade. So he does trade. He takes my knight. This threatens, obviously he's up a piece, I have to take it back. Knight or bishop? If we take with the knight, we are still in the pin. We could then go king g7, but that looks weird. If we take with the bishop, we get out of the pin. And if he goes for our rook, we just take his knight. So let's take with the bishop, because we don't want to self-pin for no reason. He takes. Now we could take with the knight or the queen. I don't really want to trade queens, but if I take with the knight, my knight is a little bit hanging, although again, I can move my king up. If I take with the queen and he just takes, and he just goes like f3, there's no advantage to be gained. So to keep things more interesting, to try to outplay him, I want queens on the board. You know, I have things like queen a5 check. I have ways to put pressure on this pawn. I have this bishop move, which he walks right into. So I feel like leaving it on the board leads to more opportunities to win the game. So he castles. The threat, well, it's just a developing move with the rook on a nice file. The downside, he walks right into this alignment. Now if I do it, can he counterattack my queen? These are not effective. Can he move his queen with some type of counter? I don't see it. Looks like he loses a rook. So I'm going to go for it. And let's see what Winston David does. He resigns. Awesome. 12 move game against a strong 1760 who came at you, aggressive, attacks. But if you calmly defend it, if you calmly come to the conclusion that he can't add more pressure, then there's nothing to be afraid of, right? And if he can add more pressure, you choose a different path. So I just want to look at the game quickly. Again, this is similar to another game we've had. And here you don't have to take, of course. You can keep developing. You can go knight c6. You can bring your knight to d7. You could take the pawn. So whatever. I just took. He takes back. And now again, I think the other game I went bishop e7, but this game I decided to try a different structure. I went for g6. But like I said, it weakens this f6 square, so you have to be careful because there are no pawns. So which is the cause of all of the pins he tried to do, right? It's because I played g6. If I had went the other way, this is never a thing. However, you can allow these things if you're not going to get hurt by them. And so bishop g7, everything's normal. And I don't like this move. I get what he's doing. He thinks 1, 2, and 3, and it looks like black's in trouble. Concretely, black's not in trouble, and the queen ends up just being in a weird spot. Yeah, so anyway, he goes here. What do I do? Yeah, I just castle because I deem that there's no danger. He jumps in. The only move is to put your knight here, or because you have to defend it. And again, I thought he was going to long castle here, but he didn't. He played c4, which looks very wrong, neglecting castling. Also, it's like I said, it's a committal pawn move that in no way helps his position. It's just a weird move because you're not trying to play for c5. That's covered. So why the heck did you do that move? It's just a weird move to me and to the computer apparently. So yep, I kick it. Yeah, you couldn't do the knight in here because let's say he just moves his queen forward, he still has 3, and you can't. You'd have to go back. So you kick the knight first. He takes. Again, you take with the bishop to avoid any pins. And wow, I mean, I came to the conclusion the queen's better, lot more winning chances, good opportunities, but I didn't realize it's so drastic. Like it says, if queen takes, it's even, but if knight takes, it's minus 1.6. So I came to the conclusion knight's better, but materials even. And although I thought I can definitely add pressure here, and I have this and this, I didn't know I was up, let's say 1.5. I would have said like 0.9 or something. Because I feel like I can win a pawn. He's still, if he I don't like castling long. It's kind of exposed, and castling short. At the very least, black is totally has equalized. I don't know, but minus 1.6. That's kind of crazy. So yeah, then he just castles, and that's just a blunder. Okay, so I was going through the games to see what I can change from my side, and I don't really see anything other than potentially not taking here, trying a different line. So maybe next time I'll try, let's say a knight bd7, and if he pushes, we go back into the Philidor-ish positions where I can play c6 and try to break down the center. And we can play something like this. But okay, either way. And if you do take, the other decision is I can try something other than g6, but as you can see, it turns out to be fine if you play accurately. So we wipe this guy out super quickly, which always feels nice. Doesn't take too much of a toll on the brain. 12 moves I can deal with just 12 move games. If you're serious about improving, submit your rapid games, one that you actually took seriously and focused on, and I will review it and you will improve. Good luck and goodbye.